Are Middle Eastern cologne fragrances actually becoming a bit too expensive for the taste of most people? Well, that's an interesting question that I actually asked you guys on my community tab on my channel. I did a poll, I let it run for a few days, 3 or 4 days, and in today's video I'm going to discuss the results of that poll, and I also am going to give you my honest opinion on whether Middle Eastern cologne fragrances are becoming a bit too expensive. Hey guys, I'm George, the nice medic gentleman, and it's time for your dose of some fragrance content. It's also time for another episode of Fragrance Talk. This time around we'll discuss the topic of whether Middle Eastern cologne fragrances are actually becoming a bit too expensive for the taste of most people. Now, I've seen this notion going, creeping up in the comments of my videos, when the people have started more and more often, talking about the words cheap or affordable that have no place actually nowadays with the current prices of Middle Eastern fragrances. So I decided to do a poll because I've been also, talking about this in the past few months. I did a poll, I let it run for about 4 days, and in today's video I'm going to discuss the results of that poll because they're actually quite interesting and in a way a little bit surprising for me. Now, usually when I do these types of videos, I improvise mostly, but for today's video I've actually prepared a few points that I want to talk about, so I'm like to sound and to look more professional. The results of the poll, as I said, were a bit surprising. There were a total of 400 or slightly over 400 votes in that poll, and the big majority of people actually voted that yes, Middle Eastern cologne brands and Middle Eastern cologne fragrances are becoming a little bit too expensive. To be more exact, 70% of those people. Unfortunately, I don't have exact numbers, I cannot break it down as exact numbers, but like a rough math should tell you that about 280 of those people who have voted with yes. Around about 29% of the people voted as no. Basically, they are saying that Middle Eastern cologne fragrances are okay priced, and a few people have voted. I gave that option that no, I don't care about Middle Eastern cologne fragrances. There were a few people who actually voted with that as well. But let's discuss the results, and I'm going to give you a few points on why I think Middle Eastern cologne fragrances are becoming more expensive, because I think that's a fact. It's not just a rumor or a theory or something. I think it's a fact. And I'm going to give you my explanation, my thoughts on why this is happening. Now, this video is not me trying to defend or justify the increase in price in Middle Eastern fragrances, because that's a fact. It's not a rumor or a theory. This also won't be me trying to bash the companies that are doing this. I'm just going to try to give you my honest opinion on why this is actually happening. I think there are a few main reasons. Some of those reasons are economic reasons. Others have to do more with the psychology of of the markets. I'm going to quickly go over some of the economical reasons. For example, here in Europe we have a tax that's called VAT. I think in the US there's also something like that, but it's named a little bit different. But in Europe that tax ranges somewhere between 18 to I think 21%. So think of it that way. Whenever you buy a fragrance, let's say a fragrance that costs 50 euros here in Europe, 20% of that end price that you're paying goes directly on covering that VAT tax. So sellers, shops, they price in that VAT tax just so that they can actually pay it to the governments after they've committed a sale. So that's one thing that makes the whole process a little bit more expensive. Also, when you're bringing in stuff from outside the European Union, you have to pay additional taxes, you have to pay customs and all that stuff. So those are a few things that contribute to increase in the price that you're paying when you're buying a certain fragrance. For example, in some places you don't have that those custom taxes, they might be a lot lower. Those VAT taxes, they might be a lot lower. So one of the reasons why at some places around the world prices are a lot lower comes down to the fact that in those countries they don't have such big taxes, or they're simply not paying them, which is a totally different subject. Another thing that's more economical, more technical, has to do with the inflation. Now, ever since COVID, or in the past 5 years or so, we've seen quite big inflation numbers across the world, especially in Europe and in the States. And for example, I'm going to give you a certain example. 5 years ago, where I live, I could have easily bought a Dior fragrance for something like 45 to 50 euros. Nowadays, that very same fragrance costs over 100 euros. So in the past 5 years or so, we've seen at least a double increase in prices of pretty much everything, including luxury goods, which are perfumes. So inflation is a thing, and that's also contributing to increased prices in Middle Eastern fragrances as well. And that inflation, of course, also contributes to higher production costs, because raw materials are also becoming more and more expensive. So the end product, in this case fragrance, Middle Eastern fragrance, also becomes more expensive. So those are a few objective economic reasons why we're seeing increase in pricing. Another thing has to do, this is more like based on psychology, but Middle Eastern brands are becoming more and more popular, and I think right now what they're doing is they're cashing in on that popularity. So they're more popular, they're more widely available, more people are searching for those products, and they can increase the prices and make bigger profits, bigger margins, simply because of how popular they are. So that's pretty much sums up in my opinion, why we're seeing this increase in pricing. There are reasons, there are justified reasons, but at the same time, even me as a customer, because I'm buying pretty much everything that I'm showing on my channel, or let's say 95% of the stuff that I'm showing on my channel, this trend is also not exactly up to my liking, because this makes the production cost of my video higher when we're seeing increase in prices. But at the end of the day, there's not much that we can do about these things. The only thing that I can think of is we have to stop buying those products so that the manufacturers decide to lower their prices, something that unfortunately I don't think is possible. Now, a few ways how you can protect yourself, let's say, or take a better care of your finances when you're spending money on, on fragrances. I can give you a few advices. You can read the comment section below that poll that I did. A lot of people have talked about this very same thing. Probably the main thing that you can do is try to not buy into the hype, or when a new product gets released and gets talked about, or try to buy it at a later stage. Don't buy it immediately after it was released, because that's usually when the prices are at their highest, at their peak. When a new product gets released, it gets hyped up by content creators for one reason or another, and at that point in time the price of a certain perfume is at its highest level. Now, the more time passes, the more the hype passes, prices start to gradually go down, down, down. There are countless examples of this, but let's say a year ago, a liquid Brune from French Avenue used to cost around about 60 euros where I live now. You can find it for 30-35 euros. So that's a decrease of somewhere between 20 to even 40% in the pricing of the fragrance itself. So that's probably the best way that you can lower your expenses when it comes to purchasing perfumes, especially Middle Eastern perfumes. Just wait for the hype to die down, and then spend the money on a certain product. Another good way, in my opinion, is, I've always said that in my videos, in my previous videos over the past few years, but don't buy into the hype. Don't immediately, when you see some fragrance being hyped up by, again, some fellow influencers or content creators, reviewers, don't immediately go and spend your money on a full bottle. Try to sample it. Nowadays we have more shops that are selling, more physical shops that are selling Middle Eastern fragrances. Try to go in store, try to test the fragrance, maybe buy a sample, and then decide whether you actually like this fragrance enough to spend, let's say, 50 or 60 euros, 50 or 60 dollars on it. That way you can lower your expenses and lower the amount of money that you're throwing to the wind if you end up not liking a certain fragrance, and a certain fragrance just being unjustifiably hyped up. So I would say that you should do one of those things. Either wait for the hype to die down or try to sample the fragrance before you actually buy it. And in the end, I'm going to give you my sort of an personal prediction on whether we're going to see this trend continue increasing in prices or not, and I'm going to finish the video off with that. And unfortunately, my opinion is that we're going to continue see that, because I don't see anytime soon the cost of of raw materials coming down. So they're probably going to continue to increase. We're going to continue to see inflation numbers, high inflation numbers, and all those things will contribute to higher pricing over time. Whether that's a good thing or not, whether I'm going to end up being right or not, I don't know, but that's my personal prediction. I think we're going to keep seeing a slight increase in the pricing of Middle Eastern fragrances, so keep that in mind. With all that, I think that's pretty much all I had to say in today's video. I hope that you found today's video interesting. I also hope that you're going to use the comment section to let me know whether you liked the video and what are your thoughts on the increasing the increased pricing in Middle Eastern fragrances. I'm really looking forward to reading your comments on that subject. Again, I hope that you found today's video interesting. As usual, if you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me in my next video for your dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.